Cast members, on the other hand, unanimously maintain there was no way to know what would happen. But there had already been hints of the surprising power of radio, which War of the Worlds so spectacularly demonstrated. In March 1933, President Roosevelt made his first fireside chat radio broadcast. 500,000 letters flooded the White House that month. Until then, one person had handled all White House mail, even during times of crisis like the Wall Street crash. Later, Roosevelt would say with a tip of the hat that he and Orson Wells were the two greatest actors in the world. Advertisers had also discovered the power of radio, turning the airwaves into what radio pioneer Lee DeForest called in 1933 a huckstering orgy. So the War of the Worlds panic dramatically underscored what many had already observed. Producer Norman Corwin had the bad luck to follow War of the Worlds on CBS and wound up talking to empty living rooms across America.
The ability of radio to create this kind of psychotic effect certainly was a demonstration of its ubiquity and its penetrability and its power. Radio, after all, unlike any other medium, would get inside homes and inside automobiles. It would be in the bedroom and the living room and in the laundry room. The printed word has to be circulated. If it's a newspaper, it has to be sold. It has to reach its subscribers. So the effect of it is spread out over hours, perhaps days. But radio is instantaneous. It is that speed and the simultaneousness of its transmission that makes any such phenomenon almost immeasurably deeper in its effect.
It seems inconceivable that anyone listening attentively from the beginning could have been fooled. But many tuned in casually to a program of dance music. Millions apparently tuned over from the Edgar Bergen show just in time to hear people being roasted by Martian heat rays. And if the action seems transparently implausible to us today, it couldn't have been better tailored to fit the anxieties of America in the fall of 1938, after several years of depression and on the eve of World War II. Princeton psychologist Joel Cooper.
Newspaper accounts, social historians of the day certainly will attest to the fact that there was an unease as people worried about the events that were happening in Europe. It was not that they were anticipating an attack from the Germans or the Italians. It was not that they were anticipating some imminent event, and yet there was this general feeling of unease. When an event can occur that can help to explain that unease, people jump to it. And on the Halloween Eve of 1938, an event did occur.
I'm speaking from the roof of Broadcasting Building. I'm speaking from the roof of Broadcasting Building, New York City. The bells you hear are ringing to warn the people to evacuate the city as Martians approach. Estimated in the last 2 hours, 3 million people have moved out along the roads to the north. This may be the last broadcast. We'll stay here to the end. Wait a minute. The enemy is now in sight above the Palisades. Five great machines. First one is crossing the river. I can see it from here, wading the Hudson like a man wading through a brook. Now they're lifting their metal hands. This is the end now. Smoke comes out, black smoke drifting over the city. People in the streets see it now. They're running toward the East River, thousands of them, dropping in like rats. Now the smoke's spreading faster. It's reached Times Square. People are trying to run away from it, but it's no use. They're falling like flies. Now the smoke's crossing 6th Avenue. 5th Avenue. 100 yards away. 50 feet.
In the panic, no one was killed. But many who were fooled were angry. They felt they'd been intentionally duped by fake news bulletins. Calls went up on Capitol Hill for new regulation to prevent such abuses. Several people filed suits against CBS, though for some reason none of them ever stuck. For their part, the networks became resolutely timid. Norman Corwin recalls that CBS dropped a scheduled rebroadcast of his program, They Fly Through the Air, even though it had been an award winner before the panic. Howard Koch.
I am disappointed in the gullibility of the American people politically, as well as in this instance, that they accept the most outrageous things as truths. There are good schools in our country, but I guess there are a lot of schools that don't teach the fundamental things of how to think for yourself. In that aspect, it was a warning.
The panic had one immediate effect on broadcast policy. Interruptions for fictional news bulletins were out. The Mercury Theater on the Air, however, suddenly found itself with a sponsor, Campbell's Soup. For Howard Koch, John Houseman, and Orson Wells, the panic broadcast was a ticket to Hollywood. Koch would go on to win an Academy Award for his screenplay, Casablanca. And Wells would land a movie deal giving him unprecedented creative control. The result would be a movie called Citizen Kane.
This is Orson Wells, ladies and gentlemen. Out of character, to assure you that the War of the Worlds has no further significance than as the holiday offering it was intended to be. The Mercury Theater's own radio version of dressing up in a sheet and jumping out of a bush and saying boo. Starting now, we couldn't soap all your windows and steal all your garden gates. By tomorrow night, so we did the best next thing. We annihilated the world before your very ears and utterly destroyed the CBS. You will be relieved, I hope, to learn that we didn't mean it and that both institutions are still open for business. So goodbye, everybody, and remember, please, for the next day or so, the terrible lesson you learned tonight. That grinning, glowing, globular invader of your living room is an inhabitant of the pumpkin patch, and if your doorbell rings and nobody's there, that was no Martian, it's Halloween.
Orson Welles, October 30th, 1938. I'm John Rieger for National Public Radio.
And for this evening, that's All Things Considered. Our story on Fernald, Ohio was produced by Deborah George with help from Lorna Jordan. Field recording by Terry Knight. We had help tonight from member stations KQED in San Francisco and WGUC in Cincinnati, and from the National Endowment for the Arts and the McGavran Guild Radio. Our editor is Gary Cavino. The director is Nora Moreno. All Things Considered is produced by Ellen Weiss with help from Lex Gillespie and Rich Dean. Our technical director is Bill Deputy. Audio engineers tonight are Norb Gallery, Dave Argenteri, Michael Cullen, and Gary Henderson. I'm Leanne Hansen. Good evening for All Things Considered.